Today's video is all about DIY frozen pizzas.
Hi, I'm Tani and welcome back to my channel, Tani's Batch Cooking. Today I'm going to show you how to make frozen pizzas from scratch. They're cheaper, healthier and honestly so much tastier than the ones you buy at the supermarket. I'll take you through the dough, the sauce and how to freeze them properly so you've always got quick dinners ready to go in the freezer. Let's get started.
So first things first, we start with the dough. On this day I made a triple batch because we were having people round for dinner, but the standard quantities for around 4 pizzas are 450 grams of strong white bread flour, 1 teaspoon of salt, 1 teaspoon of caster sugar, 1 tablespoon or 1 sachet of fast action dried yeast, 2 tablespoons of olive oil and 300 ml of room temperature water. But I always tend to make at least a double batch, so I've got some to eat for dinner that night and some to put in the freezer. The basic method of making the dough is the same as bread, so you add your flour and all the additions into a large mixing bowl. Stir until roughly combined. Then I like to use my stand mixer to knead the dough. So I use the dough hook and I put it on speed 1 or 2 for around 7 to 10 minutes. You could also knead the dough by hand on a floured surface for about 10 minutes. And if you have a bread machine, a lot of them have pizza dough settings. So you just put all the ingredients in, press pizza dough, and it'll do everything for you, including the rise. A bread machine does restrict the amount of dough you can make. Making your own dough like this is so much cheaper than buying ready-made pizzas. I don't know about you, but in my local supermarket, if you want to buy a pizza, some of the more fancy ones like Stone Baked in the fridge section are around £6 or £7 now. I reckon this whole batch of 12 probably only cost about that to make. So once the dough's finished kneading, it should be nice and stretchy and kind of elasticy like this. And that then needs to go into an oiled bowl to rise. I'll cover that with a piece of oiled cling film so that the dough doesn't dry out. Needs to rise until it's roughly doubled in size. I just leave it on the side of my kitchen because it's usually quite warm in there anyway with the oven and everything. And it takes about 2 to 3 hours. So I always try and get my dough made pretty early on in the day. Once the dough's finished rising, it's time to punch down the dough. I always like doing this part. Then I'll use a rubber spatula to get the dough out of the bowl onto a floured surface. I'll knead it for a few seconds and then start shaping it into my pizza bases. So I'll divide the dough into roughly equal portions and then roll them into like a large bread roll shape. I'll individually flatten each piece of dough into the shape of a pizza base. I try to use a rolling pin, but it always sticks to it, so I end up just pressing it down with my fingers. I'll do this straight on a piece of baking parchment so that I can then transfer it into the oven. I always par-bake my pizza bases before adding any sauce or toppings to stop it getting too soggy. So I did forget to film most of the shaping of this dough. I've got a couple of pieces that you can see over on the right there. And you can use the same dough to make dough balls as well. So that's what I've got in that tray. I just form them into small dough balls and then cook them for 15-20 minutes. So on this day, I was having quite a few people round for dinner. So I par-baked all my pizza bases for 5 minutes each. I do this on a pizza stone. I only have one of those. So I use 1 pizza stone and 1 pizza tray for 5 minutes at 200 degrees. And I just parred them all up so they were ready to get their toppings. And here you can see how I press out the dough to make a kind of rough pizza base shape. It doesn't have to be perfect. So then, if you want to freeze some pizzas ready, you can either just freeze some bases, which is what I ended up doing on this day, and then add the sauce and toppings when you want to cook them at a later date. Or you can let your par-baked bases cool completely and then add sauce and toppings and wrap them in cling film and put them in the freezer that way, so they're completely ready. So I've found some clips here that I've used on shorts of when I've made pizzas another time. So on the left, I'm making the pizza sauce. You can also use this for a basic pasta sauce as well. Add some oil and garlic to a pan, and then I'll use passata, or in this case, I used whizzed up chopped tomatoes because I didn't have any passata and my kids don't like bits. Then I'll just add salt and pepper and some seasoning, I think this is oregano, and let that warm through. And as you can see in the middle video, I make like an assembly line and I'll just put all the different toppings on there that we want, and if we're freezing them, leave them on the baking parchment and then wrap them in cling film. So as I said, I didn't put toppings on the bases that I made when I filmed this video, so I froze them as they were. I didn't put baking parchment in between them because obviously there was nothing on there that would matter if it touched. Make sure that they're well wrapped to avoid freezer burn, so I used 2 layers of cling film here. I like to use a simple homemade sauce whenever I make pizzas as well, so that I know exactly what's in there and it doesn't have any of the additional ingredients that sometimes end up in the supermarket ones. It just uses cupboard staple ingredients, tomatoes, garlic, herbs, etc. And you can freeze the leftover sauce as well if you don't use it all. As for toppings, you can basically use whatever you fancy. So leftover veg, cooked chicken, pepperoni, they're all pretty budget-friendly options. So these are my frozen bases on a different day. I've taken them out of the freezer. I'm going to use one to make a kind of little garlic flatbread, and then the other two will be pizzas. I just wanted something really quick and easy this night, so I used a little bit of olive oil and some dried garlic granules. And also make garlic butter using some salted butter and a crushed clove of garlic mixed together, and that's really nice with the dough balls especially. So this little garlic pizza just went onto my pizza stone at 200 degrees for about 10 minutes. My husband and I shared that as a starter. If I had added toppings to these pizzas, you just cook those straight from frozen as you would a frozen pizza that you buy from the supermarket. You don't have to use a pizza stone, you can just use a normal baking tray and cook them for about 15 minutes at 200 degrees. So as I say, I just wanted something really quick and easy this night. So I didn't make a whole saucepan of sauce. I just used some passata straight from the pot onto the pizza bases. And then onto that, I added salt and pepper and some garlic granules and mixed herbs. You don't get quite the depth of flavour as you would if you made some sauce separately. But if you just want some dinner on a weeknight, it works. Then I added my cheese. I use whatever cheese I've got really. So this day we had some like local cheeses, but you can use cheddar and mozzarella. I also like to get the buffalo mozzarella and chop that up and put that on there as well, and then that gives you like a nice little puddle of cheese. So once all the toppings were on these pizzas, I put those in the oven for 10 to 15 minutes at 200 degrees. With the frozen bases and the frozen topped pizzas, they can last in the freezer for at least 3 months. They save you money, you know what's in them, and they're completely customizable to whatever you and your family like. So take one afternoon, make a big batch of pizza dough and fill up your freezer with homemade pizzas ready to pull out on busy weeknights. Our favourite pizza topping tends to be pepperoni, but I also really like vegetables on pizzas. So if I'm having one for myself, I'll just put loads of peppers and mushrooms and that kind of thing on there. What's your favourite topping for pizza? If you want to see more batch cooking videos between now and my next upload, check out my socials, which I've linked in the description. Full recipe and method is on my Substack, so if you want to head over there, the link's in the description. You can sign up for my free newsletter to get recipes sent out to you whenever I upload them, and I've got all of the ones I've uploaded on there already for you to take a look through as well.
Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more budget-friendly batch cooking.